DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're going to have a great show today. Dr. Tim Parks is here from Holton, Kansas and Merck Animal Health. We're going to talk about branding calves, talk about everything from castration to timing to cow setup and much more. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be a great show.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson and I'm here with a friend and colleague, Dr. Tim Parks. Dr. Parks is a veterinarian from Holton, Kansas, who is now the technical services veterinarian for Merck Animal Health. And Dr. Parks, prior to going to Merck, maybe just talk a little bit about your practice and you know, 20 years in the business, you've seen quite a few things.
Yeah, we had a mixed animal practice in Holton. A lot of small animal, but focused on cow-calf and the stocker sector. We're kind of in a Jackson County, Rome, capital of Kansas, so a lot of cows over in that area. So typical mixed animal practice, you know, seasonal, busy in the spring and fall with cattle work and focus on the dogs and cats during the summer. So.
You bet. Well, Dr. Parks has been one of those people that has been very gracious to spend time with us at Kansas State University. He's a great resource for us as both a practitioner and a tech services veterinarian, but he is also one of those people that was so instrumental in taking on students at his clinic and very appreciative of all that he does for so many of us. And today we're going to talk about something that's kind of fun and near and dear to all of our hearts, and is the branding time of kind of springtime work that we would do with people and getting calves set up and cows set up. And
it seems like branding's become in a lot of areas is still that time that everybody gets together and focuses on the cattle for a day or so. Might be a little different this year with the moisture that we've had. So
oh boy,
plenty of going on there.
So when we were talking, kind of setting up the show, you know, you said the first thing you kind of look at or talk with your producers is about cow setup, and kind of talk to us a little bit about what you mean by setting up the cow.
You know, and anytime we talk about herd health in the cow sector, I think it's really important that we understand it. It really does start with the cow. Nutrition wise, we got to make sure that we maintain adequate body condition on that cow. Vaccinate in line so we can produce the colostrum we need to really give that calf a good start. You know, calves that are born and don't get good colostrum, we all know that they don't perform as well if they survive. So we really want to focus on that cow. I think that becomes the center point anytime we start talking about herd health. Once we get that done, then we move back into what do we do with these calves once we get them on the ground and as we get ready to take them to grass in the spring. What do we need to do to set them up for the best success that we can see?
Yeah, I think that, you know, when we look at cow nutrition, cow vaccination, you know, even our vaccines that make sure that we have the good colostrum. all of this is interrelated to how that calf's going to respond to the vaccinations and things we do at branding.
Yeah, very much so. You know, we know we've always talked about maternal antibodies, and then when we move into branding, you know, do we have some blockage there of our vaccines with maternal antibodies? So some pretty good information that we can work around some of that maternally derived antibiotics with some of the products. And at the same time really set these calves up to help prevent summer pneumonias, but really to help start to set them up for that stressful weaning time that's going to be coming a few months down the road.
You got it. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk with Dr. Parks about some of the things we're going to do, when we're going to do it, and how and what we're going to do at the time of branding. Thanks for watching DocTalk.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
When it comes to stopping horn flies, cattlemen love their Vet Gun. Today they love it even more because Vet Gun now has a 1-2 punch with 2 VetCap insecticides. New AIM-A abamectin can be used in rotation with AIM-L for effective in-season control. Each delivers a unique mode of action to manage hornfly resistance. So start your in-season rotation program with AIM-L and new AIM-A abamectin vet caps from AgriLabs.
Mark your calendars for Tuesday, March 26th in Beloit, where the first ever Stock Growers Field Day will be held by K-State Research and Extension, the Kansas Livestock Association, and the Kansas Bull Test. The event will be highlighted by a market outlook from Cattle Facts, as well as a presentation from well-known reproductive physiologist Dr. Rick Funston, where he speaks about increasing production efficiency. From there, we'll also play host to over 30 ag-based businesses in the trade show and enjoy breakout sessions where producers can listen to speakers on topics that apply directly to their operation. This event should cater to producers of all size and scale and offer a social aspect as well, so we look forward to seeing you there for the inaugural Stock Growers Field Day in North Central Kansas.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Tim Parks from Merck Animal Health, and he is also a veterinarian from Holton, Kansas. Tim, when we started talking about this, some of the things that we'd talked about was, you know, the timing of branding can be important to both how big the calf is and some of the things that we're going to do. So when do you prefer that we brand calves or bring them in for that first working?
You know, we like to have calves as close to 3 months as we can. When we start looking at various products that are on the market, a lot of them are going to have some time restrictions, some age restrictions as we look at them. So it's important that we get calves as close to 3 months as we can for multiple reasons. But maternal antibodies, something we really want in the early life of that calf, but it's something we got to consider as we move forward and start to think about vaccination programs. So at around 3 months of age, that immune system's ready to start working, and we can really start to prepare the immune, you know, through vaccination. We can prepare it beyond what it picked up from mom at that point.
You bet. What about, and we're going to come back to vaccinations, but one of the things that we're going to do during branding is castrate these calves. We recommend early castration, and even at branding, we're starting to get out there towards the latter end of what we're considering the appropriate time to band or knife cut these baby calves. Talk to me some of the things that went through your mind or go through your mind as a veterinarian with your clients and castration.
You know, we always like to castrate as early as we could. A lot of them were done at branding, so 3 months or less. And again, 3 months, you're starting to get out there at that time frame where we start to consider at times maybe we're a little further than where a little later than where we wanted to be. But you know, if we can, the younger that calf is, the less stress we have. We know that. through the use of implants, we're going to get the growth we want out of them. If we incorporate implants into castration protocol on baby calves, everything just, growth and everything just seems to be a little bit better for us. So I was a big fan of knife castration. As a veterinarian, when I saw them in the bucket, I knew the job was done. When I put the band on, there's always a concern something could happen. So knife castration, if done appropriately, but it all boils down to the comfort level of whoever's doing it. We want whoever's performing that procedure to be comfortable with whichever one they're doing.
And I'm like you. I've always been more of a knife cut versus banding. I'm not saying that the banding's not an appropriate technique. It's just there are other things that go along with it. When we start to think about castrating early, we start to think about relieving pain and improving animal welfare. No difference in performance by taking them off versus leaving them on.
No, not really. Not really. It's it seems like in that young calf, they're going to react very similar no matter what technique we use. So it's just, again, if I put a band on, I always had that concern that they might break. I've charged them to do a procedure, and I want to make sure that I was done when it was that it was done appropriately. So, but I also felt like a good surgical technique, knife castration, was where my comfort level was.
So many times those calves walk off that calf cradle and go and nurse, and that's when we know we're getting her done right.
That's exactly right.
All right, folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get into the discussion on vaccinations. So stay tuned. It'll be a great segment. Hey folks, Dr. Dan here. Welcome to our Cattle First Tip, as sponsored by Boehringer Ingelheim Vetmedica. And today we're going to talk about pen floor conditions. Now, when I think about pen floor conditions in confinement, I'm thinking about one of two things. I'm thinking about too muddy or too hot. And specifically, when we talk about mud, we want to be able to control mud. We want to give cattle, we may not be able to control rain and control all the mud, but through building mounds and through making proper ways for water to escape the pens, we can make sure that these pens drain well, and we can make sure that cattle have a dry place to lay down and that they don't have to wade through mud to get to the feed bunk or the water tank or the place that they're going to bed. When it's 97 degrees outside, the pen floor is 137 degrees. So providing some sort of bedding, which is straw, even when pen floors are too hot, can provide comfort for calves to lay down and give them a cooler spot. We don't want pens too muddy. We don't want the pen floors too hot. This is your
You spent countless hours building a strong operation. But when it comes to trichomoniasis, the odds are stacked against you. It takes just one infected bull to take down the whole herd. Damage could include open cows, lost pregnancies, and lost profits. The good news is, with TrichGuard, a herd doesn't have to feel like a house of cards.
Join us April 6th for the Gardner Angus Ranch 40th Anniversary Spring Production Sale at the ranch near Ashland, Kansas. The sale will feature 342 registered bulls, 386 registered females, and 532 bred Gardner Angus influenced commercial females. The sale will start at 9 a.m. sharp. If you are unable to join us in person, you can bid online by going to liveauction.tv and register prior to the sale. At Gardner Angus Ranch, you aren't just buying a breed, you are buying a brand backed by 4 generations of disciplined seed stock production. We hope to see you April 6th at the ranch.
It's easy to spot the man who uses Synanthic. With lower volume and less waste, Synanthic steps up your deworming routine. Get more deworming with less dewormer at Synanthic.com.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Tim Parks. Dr. Parks is a veterinarian and is a technical services veterinarian for Merck Animal Health. Spends a lot of time in cow herds, has done a lot in veterinary practice, Holton, Kansas. And I did not know it was the brome grass.
Yeah, that's at one point when we may have slipped a little bit. Brome, capital of Kansas. We've got brome, cool season grass up there.
Huh. Well, I always know I enjoy going up there. It's pretty, and lots of cows.
Lots of cows.
So let's talk about vaccinations and branding time and kind of what your recommendation is and why.
Okay. You know, anytime we get into branding, everybody's going to look for a black leg. Want to get a black leg in. I think some of the things we've really got to remember is at branding, we tend to have one shot. So people want to do as much as they can that one time, which isn't necessarily always the best scenario. So really want to look at products that may not require a booster, or may not, aren't going to fit into the protocol. So there's been quite a bit of work done lately looking at some intranasal stuff. We know that intranasal vaccines can really help us get around some of those maternally derived antibodies. So,
and the reason is because that goes into the nose and it acts locally, right?
It goes into the nose. There's some cells in the nasal cavity that can actually grab our antigen, and instead of having an antigen antibody complex like we would with maternally derived issues where that antibody's sitting there and it comes in and grabs it and then sends it to start processing, we're actually able to grab it with some cells, present it to the immune system, and actually stimulate the immune system to start creating a response. We do get localized IgA type secretory antibodies, but we're also able to stimulate some IgG responses with some of our intranasal vaccines.
And I think it's important because we're sitting there saying sometimes the reason why we vaccinate a puppy 6, 9, 12, and 15 weeks is because we know somewhere between the 6 and 15 weeks that maternal antibody is going to wane to where our vaccine works.
Right.
And what you're saying now is with some of the intranasal and different things that we can do, we can bypass.
Yeah. There's some evidence that we're able to bypass some of those maternal antibodies, and but beyond that, the other thing we got to keep in mind is anytime we're vaccinating an animal, what we're doing is we're exposing it to an antigen. And anytime we expose it that first time, our goal is we really want to set up some memory. We want that immune system to be able to remember it. Our protection really comes on a lot of products, especially a lot of our killed products, is going to come with that second vaccine. So making sure we're putting the appropriate products in at the right time is a big part.
And most of these times, we're vaccinating these calves prior to we brand and then we go out and turn out for breeding. And so this is really, when we vaccinate calves, it's the effects that maybe the vaccine would have on the calf, passing it to the cow, or exposure.
Yeah, there's some concern there, especially a lot of it goes back to the use of modified lives in those calves, where we could have some shed of virus, the IBR being the main component that we're really worried about in that side of it. It goes back to vaccination status of your cow herd and what concerns we may have there, but that's where cow setup really becomes important, making sure that we've got that cow and the best, so we can utilize the products that are going to give us the best results but still have safety when it comes back to the breeding sides.
Perfect. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have a wrap up with Dr. Parks on branding and what you can do at that point in time in the calf's life.
When you're in the cattle business, no matter how much it's a business, it still starts with cattle. It's this basic notion that sits at the core of how we approach things at Boehringer Ingelheim. We understand when you put the cattle first, it just naturally leads to doing the right things. If you want to do well in this business, you start by doing right. Take care of the cattle, and they'll take care of you.
When it comes to stopping horn flies, cattlemen love their vet gun. Today they love it even more because Vet Gun now has a 1-2 punch with 2 VetCap insecticides. New AIM-A abamectin can be used in rotation with AIM-L for effective in-season control. Each delivers a unique mode of action to manage hornfly resistance. So start your in-season rotation program with AIM-L and new AIM-A abamectin vet caps from AgriLabs.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Tim Parks. And we're here at Kansas State University, and we're talking about vaccines and different things at the time of branding when these calves are 3 months of age. So let's just kind of bullet list those vaccines that y'all are recommending at this time.
Well, we get into most vaccination protocols and start to think about some preconditioned calf sales to be able to fit into those. We're going to be looking at blackleg, so 7-way Clostridial, IBR, DVD, PI3, BRSV. So whether it be modified live or killed, we're going to have those respiratory viruses in place. A lot of times we're going to see pink eye go in, depending on where we're at and what the concerns are within that particular herd. We can see Histophilus vaccines be put in place as well. Hopefully we're going to see an implant go in, something to talk with your veterinarian about. What your ultimate goal is going to drive that decision, but good evidence that we're leaving a lot of money out on grass if we're not utilizing implants at the appropriate time.
And we've had shows and we've talked about that. You know, if you know you're going to retain them as heifers, there's no need to implant. If it's going to potentially be a bull, don't implant. But if they're going to be steers, market steers, and you don't know if they're going to be market heifers, implant them.
Yep. We're just we know that we can stimulate growth on average about 23 pounds through a season. So no point in not utilizing it. But have that discussion with your veterinarian. They know your goals. They know what you want to accomplish with your program, and they're going to be able to help you with those decisions.
Now, we one of the things that we talked about during break was vaccine stacking. And talk a little bit about the concern that you have and that we have as an industry of this.
One of the things we run into, and it comes back to our bacterial side of vaccinations, is when we start putting a lot of gram-negative vaccines into a calf, we know that we can stimulate some issues. So gram-negative vaccines would be Histophilus, pink eye. One that I didn't mention earlier that sure fits in there and we need to have in a program like this would be Mannheimia and Pasteurellus. Really setting them up to help with the summer pneumonias. If we start putting those in, we know that we can start to create some issues with endotoxin, because endotoxin is released when that bacteria dies, gram-negative bacteria dies. So if we're using a killed product, we're using more of a Bactrin. We know that we grow it up, we kill it, we put it in a bottle, and then we're going to inject it. So anytime we do that, we'll tend to see some of our endotoxin levels be higher in some of those products. Then it depends on what adjuvant it is that we put it in. If we put it in an aluminum hydroxide, it'll help bind it. If it's in an oil adjuvant, we may not get as much binding and we're going to have more free. So again, just working with your veterinarian to make sure that the program that we're on, we're utilizing products that are going to help minimize endotoxin stacking, because endotoxin can look a lot like bovine respiratory disease. A little bit can be good, but too much can be fatal. So we want to make sure that we're talking about a young calf. Depending on what happens this year, we may be talking about working cattle when it's starting to get pretty warm and humidity's up, and endotoxin can have more detrimental effects as temperatures and humidity rise too. So just make sure that we're we're being cognizant of what we're putting into them. And you just work with your veterinarian to work that out.
Excellent. We used to call it vaccine sweats.
Yep.
And that's exactly what they look like. We're going to take a minute here and just say thank you very much.
No,
thank you for being on the show. You bet. Great wealth of information, and always good to have people that are out there doing it on the show. Thanks for watching DocTalk. If you want to know more about what we do on the show, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Always work with your local veterinarian. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson with Dr. Tim Parks, and we'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by VetGun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance from AgriLabs.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com.
DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.